Complete illiteracy, my one weakness.
But our faith and skill is not enough to deal with that bullshit. I'm out of here, boys.
When you're an eldritch god, you don't feel sorry for no one. You only feel sorry for those who did not have the delight of being turned into a glorious snack for your visage. So you know when I said earlier that Reggie's choice of army is usually a depiction of his poorly disguised fetish as a game? Now this might be a video that proves the point as to how your delegation and commitment to this stream dictates what we end up doing. Because as of recent, your enjoyment and response to my videos where I react to Reggie have been delightful. And as such, I have taken the initiative to double down on this nonsense, because if there's someone who helps me realize my immense lack of mental stability, then that would be Reggie. So we are going to be going back and watching Reggie, that's going to be staying in the video. We're going to be going back and watching Reggie because it's what you guys seem to enjoy, and honestly, his tism is right up my rhythm. So join us with Twitch and YouTube Live as we check out one of Reggie's Warhammer videos. And if you do feel like joining us, I'll be going back and doing some YouTube streams now that I've finally got my stuff set back up. So if you ever see me live or you want to drop by Twitch, there'll be links down below to check all that kind of stuff out as well.
God
Here we go.
has never been so disgusting
More
because
Reggie
today
time.
in Total Warhammer 3, we will be using arcane magic, careful diplomacy, and eldritch abomination.
Okay, arcane magic, eldritch diplomacy, and god tier amounts of scuff to try and help a single VTuber understand their place in the universe as being the problem rather than the solution. Sounds good to me!
To subjugate the world and ascend to godliness.
Oh, I mean that too, that works as well.
Standing in our way are hordes of beastmen, undead armies, and of course thousands of communists. For
So all of that, and it still wouldn't be enough to come between me doing yo mama.
every one of these enemies we conquer, our commander grows in size and strength until he becomes a literal god. Can we spread our cult across the world, or will every endgame crisis on max difficulty stop us in our tracks? There's only one way to find out. We start our campaign at the Monument
if
of the
anyone
Moon
can,
and are
Reggie
immediately
can.
presented with a difficult decision.
For the
Do we
spells, by
want
the
to
way?
develop caste-based slavery or experiment with blood sacrifices? I won't lie, my psychosexual...
Just saw someone in my YouTube chat say this sounds like Seth Zintak. Okay, so this is Seth Zintak's slightly more autistic cousin. Whereas Seth Zintak is more ADHD, this is autistic Seth Zintak.
Need to dominate the poor is very strong, but my compulsion to draw with their blood is even stronger. After that, I began examining our military. We're equipped with several...
Military? That's a fun way of saying a bunch of people with sticks and stones and the slightly disgruntled offspring of the average Essex person. Crazy.
Swamp monsters, a goblin shaman that looks suspiciously like a Gilbert Gottfried, and our commander...
Okay, well you say swamp monster, I say inhabitant of Essex. Same, but different.
Giant octopus named Kroll. I try not to look at him too much because those tentacles make me act up. Right now...
I'm acting. Sorry, I tentacled. I can't help it. Anytime I see my brethren, I must perform the signs of... Anyway.
Now, he's just a big fat idiot that gets bullied by enemy archers.
Wait a minute, that's not a nice thing to call Donald Trump.
We can construct a temple
Rude.
of Kroll, which increases his weapon damage, armor, and mass by 5%. Our goal?
Oh my
construct
God.
20 temples
Increase
so
that
that we
mass.
can send from trifling god to divine entity. First, we have to kill our
What does
neighbors.
tentacles
This
do,
was
though?
when I understood just how large Kroll was, because he looks like this on the auto-resolve. The beastmen did their best, but after buffing Kroll with sneaky stabbing, he absolutely gutted their army. It's at this point I realized I picked the best faction, because I can take my enemies...
You also realize... Okay, it's at this point that you say you realize you picked the best faction. Sure, from an internal retrospective, that's true. But from an external sort of outward perspective, from other people looking at you, other people now realize that you have you have a kink that is disguised very poorly as an army.
as slaves and sacrifice them before each battle to increase the potency of my magic spells. More on that later. With the beastmen currently locked in my basement, I have to choose my next victim. In an effort to quickly monopolize the color green, I decide to start with the orcs.
Jerome
Unfortunately, all of their cities follow some Latin American naming system, which makes them very hard for me to pronounce. This causes me to vibrate with rage, but it doesn't stop me from auto-resolving.
Oh no! Complete illiteracy! My one weakness! Ah!
them out of existence.
Do I look
In fact,
literate to
it
you?
helped a lot. At this point, I was getting in character as some kind of settlement name auditor, punishing factions with pretentious or
Pillars of
unimaginative
Unseen
naming systems,
Constellations?
which led me directly to
Damn,
a
sounds
town
like
in
a
the swamp
VTuber's
named
lore
Swamp
video.
Town. Seriously, guys? I decided to penalize this faction by
At
hiring a
penal.
group of ogres to beat them to death with mallets. With Swamp
Whoa,
Town
that's
under
crazy.
new management, we now
I
have
love it when
regional
people get beaten to
stability
death with
and we can
no way,
begin
that's actually
developing our
happy, isn't it?
economic infrastructure. However, that would be a massive mistake, because when you are playing a lord that looks like this, you are definitely not an economic
Doesn't this thing look a bit
mistake,
like,
because when you are playing
it looks like those tentacle monsters from Elden Ring, right? You know, the ones with like the tentacles and the beak on the middle that you like shove your sword into as a visceral point?
a lord that looks like this, you are definitely not an economic faction. To put it simply,
I need to engage in homicidal behavior on a massive scale.
so quickly resuming the wanton
Yo,
slaughter of
you
innocent
too?
people, I
Me
recruit a second
three?
general
I
and
love
launch
homicide.
a preemptive strike
Please don't
against
take this out
Lord
of context.
Mazda Mundi at Port Reaver. Taking the settlement was quite easy, but surviving what came next was an entirely different matter. Because on the next turn, Mazda Mundi descended on Port Reaver with all 1,200 pounds of his
He's a
body
chonky
positivity
boy.
and began massacring
You're devil,
thousands
thank
of
you for following.
innocent boglars.
And
However,
he's
I
luck.
have confirmed with top scientists that boglars are in fact not real people. They don't have
Boglars remind me so much of the lizardmen's little scrunkly dudes that have more movement than sense.
rights, and we don't have to care when they die, so no big deal. But it was a big deal on the next turn when Mazda Mundi came down to Swamp Town and kicked the shit out of me. Suffering this many defeats so early in the campaign made me seriously consider ending it all. However,
But Reggie, buddy, pal, chum, Reggie, you of all people should know that persistence is what matters. It's not about the losses we suffer, it's how we get back up, rise to the occasion, and say no matter just how many times we get knocked down, we keep pushing. It's not about how we get knocked down, it's how we get back up and keep punching back.
I quickly realized that my hatred for the lizards is marginally greater than my hatred for myself, and so I fought on. If you're ever in
It's
this
not
situation,
about how you get,
I'll tell you
it's not about how
exactly
you
to win. Simply challenge your
get
enemy
knocked down. It's about how hard you can get beat and still give a beating.
to a rematch, sacrifice 400 innocent people to supercharge your spells.
Okay,
and spend-
Reggie. You say innocent people. I do not derive VTuber tier 3 subs as innocent people. They have, by proxy of their existence, denoted themselves as a violation of the Geneva Convention. Because anyone willing to tier 3 sub to a VTuber is not a mortal being that deserves to be on this plane of existence. They are self-denoted sacrifices for the Eldritch gods.
the entire battle abusing Spirit Leech to kill all of their commanders. Don't tell anyone you did that shit, though. They'll make fun of you and call you gay. Trust me, I'm speaking from
Bisexual, actually.
experience. Anyway, this marked a turning point in the war, because, simply put, everyone on the other side was dead. By the time we got to their capital city, they did have an army, but we quickly drowned them in a sea.
You know, saying that everyone is dead is kind of a moment-to-moment thing. In some situations, saying everyone's dead could be a bad thing. But then in other situations, saying everyone's dead could be a good thing. For example, if you say that everyone is dead and you are playing a game of Battle Royale, that's a good thing, because it means you've won. However, if you're saying everyone's dead and you're in the middle of a classroom, then you probably live in America.
Of boglar corpses, and I guess we also literally drown them with these tidal waves. With the lizards now relegated to the fossil record, we have to plan our next move. I looked to the south and found opium farmers, and in the north, manic sex criminals. I don't know if you've ever met a dark elf, but canonically, they smell like manic sex criminals. I don't know if you've
Right, so when I said that tier 3 sub VTuber tier 3 subs were to be sacrificed, apparently they decided to make a union and turned every VTuber tier 3 sub into a faction in Warhammer. Because lo and behold, cute, submissive, and breedable femboys. All of which made into an army. I didn't realize you guys had such organizational skills to unionize.
You've ever met a dark elf, but canonically, they smell like cigarettes and boiled piss, so I try to avoid them at
Like
all
the average Russian?
costs. I started the war against Cathay by ambushing them at the floating pyramid and capturing several of their cities. They sent their finest dumpling salesmen to stop me, but failed every
dumplings,
time.
yummy.
Probably because I just unlocked this.
Wait, did you know that we have a Discord and a Twitch? No? Well, now you do. So what are you waiting for? Why don't you click those little links over there and be part of the fun? Just like the rest of us cool kids, you know what I'm saying?
New artillery unit, and it fires literal laser beams. Probably because
That's my house. You just literally uprooted my house and put it on a pedestal. That is not a artillery emplacement. That's me giving people the stink eye for waking me up. You gets.
I just unlocked this new artillery unit and it fires literal laser beams. Not too bad. Eventually, Cathay unified their forces with Marcus Wolfhard and fought me at the Monument of Izatal. This was the exact point in the campaign where I realized Kroll is absolutely broken, because I now have tier 2 magic plus 100%.
Okay, real talk, I'm starting to believe, having now played this game a lot myself, I'm starting to believe that the game isn't about the individual battles, it's about the process of going from the beginning of your campaign to the end. And it's not about the individual battles, it's about how quick you can make your hero unit just unkillable and the most broken thing since the British tax system.
Spell intensity from sacrifices and another 45% from this item. You want to see what that looks like?
Yes.
Look at these spearmen. Now they're gone. That wasn't
Whoa!
sped up.
That's
1,500
magic!
people
Magic
just
trick!
died in 3 seconds.
Did you put them
now,
into
casting the big spells might seem like the way
God,
to go,
they put them
but
into
I've discovered a more effective method, because after defeating
magician's
Yon
hat.
Bo in combat, I gained a trait which reduces the cost of all of my spells by 20%. This makes my tidal wave
Like using
cost
card
almost
destruction
nothing.
in
However, because
Yu-Gi-Oh!
of the slave sacrifices, it's strong enough to wipe out entire
Jesus!
squads of archers in one shot. And to add insult to injury, Kroll has the Brood Mother ability, which causes him to summon a miniature kraken whenever he kills enemy units.
So you know when I said earlier that Reggie's choice of army is usually a depiction of his poorly disguised fetish as a game? What is one theme we're seeing extensively through this army? More tentacles than a hentai. And I'm not sure whether to be concerned about that fact or whether to admire it and want to play that faction myself.
I'm sure you can imagine just how quickly this got out of hand. I used this one weird trick to accumulate 1,200 kills on Kroll
Reggie's
in a
cooking!
single battle. I had
In fact,
this
he's
whole
not even
army
cooking.
thing wrong.
He's
I saw
cooked so
Kroll and
hard
thought,
that he's already
disgusting
started his own
swamp
meth
monster
lab
for
and
melee
made it into a
combat.
video game.
But really, he is one of the most well-educated and gifted mages of all time. Anyway, this probably goes without saying, but we won that battle pretty easily. By this point, the Chinese are finished. Marcus is homeless.
Anything other than a Pike victory where there's absolutely no survivors on the enemy team would be considered heretical. If there is a survivor, it means that there's going to be someone that hasn't been utilized better for fertilizer. And we can't be having that. These fields need to be nurtured.
And if you're an 8-limbed monstrosity, things are going pretty good. We now have 4 capital cities with 2 temples, and more being built every turn. I can taste godhood, and it tastes like dead Bretonians. It's at this point you're probably wondering, Reggie, do you
this is a
actually
weird
have a
metaphor
plan,
for
or are you going
how
to just keep killing people? To which I reply,
post-Brexit
that
England
is
is
the
at the
plan.
moment.
That's always been
The Liberals want you to think that England is currently suffering with the onset of a onset of like bad economy. But actually, what's really happening is there are tentacle monsters going around everywhere eating people. Yeah.
plan in every single video. In my effort to accumulate as many capital cities as possible, I began physically annihilating the Brits. Sure, they have good cavalry.
Yeah! Eliminate those Brits! Eliminate them! Tear them down! Destroy them! Wait a minute, I'm British. Nah, worth it. Kill those Brits! Murder those Brits! Take them into the Eldritch world and disintegrate them down to their biological components. It's really a mercy considering how much they're having to put up with post-Brexit England as it is.
Knights are so well trained that they're practically one with their horse. However, my cavalry are literally one with their horse, because I have used dark magic to anatomically fuse them together. Imagine this, you're a French peasant. The only things you...
So that's what Mr. Hands was trying to accomplish all the way back then. Becoming one with your horse. That's crazy.
know are be stinky and die from shitting yourself. Then imagine seeing these ungodly abominations cresting the hill. It's fair to say that you are unprepared for what's about to happen, as was Alberic. In fact, at one point, I ended my turn in march stance beside 2 full Bretonnian stacks, because I fundamentally do not respect them. All in all, we had their entire empire wiped out within 10 turns. It was at this point I realized Jan Bo is actually still alive.
Look, either you take out the Bretonnians in 10 turns, or they take themselves out in 11 turns. Ultimately, the result is the same, the difference is a very small amount of time.
I just stole all of his territory, and since then, he's been camping outside my settlements, like a homeless vagrant who steals my recyclables just to survive. After 10 turns of this, he worked up the courage to bonsai charge a nearby settlement. By himself. What an asshole. Anyway, I gotta say, he really went for it. It's almost like he didn't have a choice. Maybe he was drafted, or even enlisted, the sponsor of today's video.
Yo! What a segue!
Enlisted is a first-person
really
shooter
game,
that offers a
we
mixture
played on
of
stream once or
PvP
twice as like
and
a sponsored
PvE
thing.
combat. Lead a squad of customizable AI soldiers and participate in massive battles with other players. Enjoy multiple weapons, vehicles, and campaigns ranging from the invasion of Normandy to the Battle of Moscow. The combat is very realistic.
Look,
for example,
my
I can
headcanon is
obliterate
they're
your
British,
ribcage with a
because
shotgun
I'm
without
British
having
and
to worry about you
unimaginative,
surviving.
so when I hear
Speaking of realism, the graphics are so good I can practically taste the
sounds like
exhaust
British,
coming out of
therefore I
this tank.
internalize it
My
as
personal
British.
favorite feature is the NIO5 impact mine. It looks like an anti-tank mine at the end of a short stick, because it is. But that's not going to stop me from running across an open field and plunging it into the side of a tank before being atomized in the subsequent explosion. Follow the link below to play Enlisted for free on Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. Now back to the video. While this was happening, we were having some issues with a tribe of lizard men led by Gorok. You see, he's an unhinged...
I need, sorry, this is like a bit of an ADHD tangent. Just a moment, but there's a video that explains exactly how I feel about lizard people.
Saurus. I hate them. I hate their lizard faces. I hate their clubs. I hate their sticks. I hate when the sticks are next to the clubs. And I hate when the clubs are next to the sticks. I hate that Krokgar pulls 2280 of them out of his scaly asshole and then descends on me like a Vogan at a poetry convention. I hate the Saurus auto-resolve meter. I hate it because it lies to me. It says I have a 50 chance of victory. This is patently false because I have 20 units of spearmen who are held together with faith and steel. I do not have 20 units
In faith and steel we believe.
of 8-foot-tall geckos constructed out
But our faith and steel is not enough to deal with that bullshit. I'm out of here, boys.
of pectoral muscles and galvanized coffin nails. I hate that they shout Bok at me. Bok is the Bristol Orienteering Club, which is completely irrelevant to a battle in Lustria and should not be shouted repeatedly while eating a rank of Tier 1 infantry like buffalo wings. I hate their morale. I hate that surrounding them simply prompts one of them to pull out a US general's helmet so he can make a speech about, now we can attack in any direction. I hate that their reaction to a devastating rear attack is to become somewhat peeved. I have looked a Saurus in his smug, scaly face as an encirclement that would shatter any other early-game infantry closed in. He went from angry to excited, killed an extra 200 spearmen because I had foolishly allowed all 4 sides of the Saurus unit to fight at once and then swallowed my bright wizard like a Slim Jim. I have resolved to shoot every Saurus dead. Every Saurus. All of the Sawmen and the Sawdren too. I hate them. I no longer see battlefields because they're covered by a thick blanket of gunfire trails. I hate that it barely stops them. I hate that they keep coming while shouting about the Bristol Orienteering Club, or the Bank of Oklahoma, or the 1983 Bok asteroid. I hate that they made me Google Bok so I could write down ways in which I hate things that have it as a name. Bok is also a lunar crater and a Martian crater.
So informative!
It is also a village in Iran. I hate that while I was writing this, Krokgar picked up Franz and smoked him like a cigar. I hate Saurus.
Wow, yeah, no, that's pretty much how I feel about the lizard men. Especially considering there was this one time when I was in Games Workshop, I was playing Warhammer Fantasy back in the day. I was doing a small skirmish with my Tomb Kings against one of the people who worked in the shop with their lizard men. I absolutely barrel rolled this person and had pretty much 90% of my army left, which consisted of mostly foot soldiers. I then had to go up against his skinks, who had such a movement circle that my freaking Tomb Kings couldn't turn fast enough to attack them, and with a small detachment of like 15 skinks, killed my entire fucking army!
Sociopath on a suicide mission to make you uninstall the game. I can say that confidently because he absolutely devastated Kroll in a head-to-head battle, and after I tried to finish him off with a second army, he laughed at me, spit in my mouth, and beat me mercilessly. My greatest victory against him came on the third attempt, where I managed to kill everyone in his army before he single-handedly beat all of my remaining soldiers to death. I genuinely believed I could defeat Gorok.
But it turned out I was, in fact, a soy boy. I was a low-T cuck.
I want
Damn, that's crazy. There's just a random insert of Boogie in there for no apparent reason.
you to know. I need you to understand that the only way to kill Gorok is by accepting a Pyrrhic victory auto-resolve. I don't care how much it costs, it's worth it. I did this myself, and with Gorok out of the picture, we quickly steamrolled his empire, just in time
So
for
the mentality of dealing with lizard people is the same mentality you deal with trying to pretend VTubers don't exist. You minimize interaction at all cost. You only deal with them by proxy of second-hand communication, and you ignore them until they feel like they don't have any relevancy anymore, at which point they make a graduation message of self-defeat.
a bioterrorist to declare war on us. The Skaven decided to take the fight to us, which is really unfortunate for them, because we've just upgraded our cavalry to this. What is it, and where is its lower jaw? I don't know, but I do know that its
is a lower
anatomical
jaw.
abnormality makes it ideal for swallowing entire rats without chewing. The war with Lord Skrolk lasted about 15 turns, and it went something like this. Get attacked by rats, kill literal millions of them, realize you're still outnumbered, somehow win.
My question is, was this video made before or after Reggie played the Skaven faction? Because if it was before, I think we're now finding out why he then chose to play the Skaven faction.
In any way, siege battle, lose a siege battle, because you didn't see the rats on the south wall, and now you don't have any control points. Increase your blood pressure in frustration, retaliate with tremendous violence, get ambushed, again, and again, and again. Get so angry that you black out, wake up.
I believe I just need to reciprocate the point I made in the Reggie Vermintide video, where rats are not so much a concern of whether you can beat them, it's whether you can you have the morale to put up with quite literally a tidal wave of stinky rat boys that even if you kill 1 million of them, will somehow still find a way to procreate faster than the average Essex wife.
Up on the defeat screen and scream into the void. Start winning battles by abusing magic. Don't have mercy. Team up with a demented pirate to destroy their capital cities.
What you have to understand is that Skaven don't deal with numbers. Because to Skaven, numbers are a mystical thing. And so because they don't believe in numbers, because they don't believe in the quantification of not enough or too little, you physically can't get rid of them because there's never a denomination big or small enough to really describe how many or how few there are. So therefore, they constantly exist no matter what or where you are. So the idea is you have to psyop yourself into believing the Skaven don't exist, therefore they won't, therefore you don't have to fight them, therefore they don't exist, therefore you win. That's what it is. It's mental games.
And eventually, the war is
Skaven
over.
are
Well, sort of. You see, it's turn 90, and the endgame
Skaven
event
are
just
not a
triggered
physical
all
threat.
of the endgame
They are
events.
a
Compared to the rest of the world, we got off pretty lucky,
cognito
but we do
hazard.
still have to deal with a vermintide. Which means
Schrodinger's
Skrolk
rats,
is
yes.
back, and he brought 3 of his
They only
finest
exist
ball
so long as you
washers
believe
to
they
cause
exist.
trouble. We had to fight them using just Kroll and an army of swamp demons. The game thinks we're going to lose, but what it's not accounting for is my strategic unpredictability. In fact, even I don't know what I'm going to do on a second-by-second basis. But I started by casting a lot of spells, and it was going very well.
Hold up. I got you. Reggie, I got you. Bear with me. Right, Reggie, I got you on this one, dude. You need spells and shit? Hit me up, my dude. I have a 1-to-1 guaranteed surefire way to solve all your problems with the best magic and the best team-up collab you'll ever see in your life. I am personally part of the Shadow Wizard Money Gang, and if you contact me today, I'll bring in some of our legalized nuclear bombs to solve your necessity of dealing with any of your enemies. Shadow Wizard Money Gang, here to serve.
Honestly, I wish I could take credit for this, but there were so many rats I could probably be doing this blindfolded and killing just as many. Rampaging octopi crashed through their front line, tsunamis obliterated their slingers, and my off-brand lizard men chased down all the survivors. All in all, we won the battle, and Kroll came
Even
out
when they're
with over
not there,
1,000
they're still
kills.
there.
At this point, we're only a renegade god with 7 temples constructed, so we still have a lot of work to do. Now I
Pathetic.
could just be a loser and play this safe, but instead I decided to sail my armies across the ocean and fight the strongest faction on the map. The
Something
Tomb
weird
Kings.
about tentacle
We came ashore
creatures
on their
sailing.
borders and quickly realized how bad of a decision this was, because every settlement here is totally uninhabitable. I pretended not to be bothered by this, because that seems like the kind of thing a god would do, but in reality it made
See,
building
this is what I'm saying. Tomb Kings are a better representation of the British, because the British people basically don't care where they live, just as long as it's, like, moist. The Tomb Kings quite literally could live in a desert.
and recruiting troops very challenging. Apart from that, the war with Kemri was going quite well. All of their armies were tied up in the east fighting with the dwarves and Sinch, so they were woefully unprepared when we showed up and started trashing the place. Part of the issue for them was that I was shamelessly abusing these guys right here. The Balefire Apprentice is a magical ranged unit, and I figured out that by making an entire army out of them, I can absolutely melt just about unit. And I figured out that by making an entire army
Anyone that dares make an army like this are the same people who played StarCraft 2 and would cannon rush your base as the Protoss. And what I would say to this person is the same thing I'd say to those people. F you little piece of goddamn. How dare you come into my base and backline?
army out of them, I can absolutely melt just about everything on the Tomb King roster. Even better still is that each one of them has access to Spirit Leech. This spell by itself can drain enemy lords pretty effectively, but since I have 15 apprentices, I can cast 15 instances of it at the same time. Then remember that I've sacrificed slaves to double the potency, so we've effectively cast 30 Spirit Leeches on this poor skill.
I cast Geneva Convention violations specifically on you in particular. Because I want to not only kill you, I want to remove you from the gene pool, I want to remove your entire existence from the gene pool, I want to remove you from the fabric of existence, I want to remove any memory of you, your family's memory, I want to remove every single goddamn molecule of you from every known dimension.
Skeleton, and he has been liquefied within 5 seconds. Don't you think? I'm not proud to say it, but this tactic won us a lot of territory in the desert. It's now turn 108, and things are going very well. We have 11 temples, almost 10,000 slaves, a good chunk of North Africa, and we just unlocked a massive buff for our Balefire apprentices. However, this would soon change, because after I pressed the next turn button, every AI on the map entered into some kind of satanic pact to ruin my life. Kemri started pushing aggressively from the east. Then Ikit Claw started attacking us from the north. Following this, some dark...
So, this is what we in the content creation sphere like to go under the radar as submissive and unnoticeable. When you take under this mindset, it's better to go unnoticed for a long number of years, slowly building yourself up and building up infrastructure, than to one day rise up and overthrow all of VTuber kind. Rather than getting yourself in people's faces from the word go, and then getting the ire of everyone that's jealous of you with your fat milkers. You really have to take the subversive way sometimes.
Elves decide they want to harvest my organs in Lustria. Meanwhile, some wood elves put us on a stretching rack ass first. And finally, gangs of chaos dwarves used a cartoon drilling machine to pop up randomly across Lustria and begin shooting us to death. So basically, we're in a war on 5 fronts. And no, it's not going well. We were losing about 4 battles per turn. In moments like these, all you can do is put on a strong face, because it's not gay to be pounded by 5 men
unless you get a boner.
Yes, you moan. However...
Okay, well that's the same thing, but slightly more poetic.
The fight that really broke me was this one against Ikit. The auto-battler said it was a close defeat, so I thought I could win. I load the map and it seems normal. Then I go cry on the toilet for 25 minutes. For some reason, while I'm away, the map begins to change. The sand is getting marginally brighter by the second. By the time I return, it looks like this. The entire map is covered in some kind of oversaturated glow that makes it virtually impossible for me to see what the fuck is going on. If it wasn't for the health bars, I wouldn't even know where my units were.
POV when you make your character out of nothing but prime colors.
were, let alone that they're currently
Yummy!
being shot with
Radiation!
Gatling guns.
Nothing
I
like a
tried
little
my
bit of
best to win this
uranium
fight,
to
but
spice up the
attempting
day.
to identify enemy units
Hey
under
guys, remember, a crumb of uranium is enough calories to satiate you for an entire lifetime.
these conditions proved remarkably difficult. Oh, you thought you sent your swordsmen to go fight some archers. Well, bad news. That's actually a giant mutated rat man, and everyone is dead. This
Oops.
is it. Rock bottom. I knew there was only one way to get out of this,
Save scum.
and it's going to cost me a lot
Save
of
scum.
money. We have access
Save
to
scum.
a unit called a demonomaniac. It's very good at killing everything. So against the
Oh.
advice of my financial
take it.
advisor, I went
No,
ahead and...
guys, bear with me. I could take it. He's saying I could kill everything? I could take it easily. Easily. It ain't that big. I've taken bigger.
built a doomstack with 10 of these fine young men. And let me tell you, as far as antidepressants go, this is the best I've ever had. I unlocked 20% ward save for them and spent the next 15 turns on Cloud 9, absolutely obliterating my way through the Tomb King Empire. All of my other armies were dedicated to holding my borders while Kroll systematically disassembled the strongest faction in the game. Don't worry, I didn't kill them.
God,
I
I wanna
left
play
them
some Tomb
alive
Kings
just
now.
enough to appreciate how gimped their faction has become. With the Tomb Kings in a medically induced coma, our
Aw,
situation
poor
is
little
still
dehydrated
complicated,
guy.
but a lot more manageable. Naturally, our finances are still stretched thin, and the Wood Elves are becoming a big problem. You see, every
I can't. Dude, I cannot see. I cannot see these characters here without giving them Marge Simpson's voice. Homie, the elves are going to war again. The Tomb Kings need to be spanked, homie.
See, every man has a single thread of insanity woven into the very fabric of their being. The Wood Elves are made exclusively from these threads, and as such, they've been on a murderous rampage in the north. I've been slowing them down by sacrificing millions of boglars, but this is not a long-term solution. Luckily,
No,
we
but
were
it is
able
funny
to
as hell.
erect several temples of Kroll in the desert, and we're quickly closing in on godhood. There's just one more thing we need, and it's sitting all the way in Ulthuan. I had Kroll take to the seas and make his way there. Sitting patiently in this castle is a weapon of immeasurable power, wielded by a demon named Makari. We're actually
What? What? Huh? But that. But I'm not sure whether to be upset or humbled they would put me in the game. Because I literally have a character in my comics called Makari. Oh. Huh. Although, being brutally honest, let's be real here, guys. This is my Makari. This Nakari's a biscuit by comparison to mine. Basic. Doesn't even have a giant eldritch spider to ride on. Pathetic.
pretty good friends, but not for long, because I'm going to kill him and claim the sword of Kain. I started the battle, and on paper, we're definitely the underdog, but what the game forgot to consider is this.
Rip and tear, bitches!
Hordes of sexed-up freaks charged across the field towards us.
Wait. Can you just stop describing Nakari, please? Yes, we know Nakari is a sexed up freak. That's the way I designed him.
My demonomaniacs were having absolutely none of it. Honestly, it was very enjoyable, and not just because there were thousands of muscular men whipping me, but because I started using this spell. Yeah,
I
that's
can't
pretty
believe there's a
nasty, even for
faction
Slaanesh.
that is literally the manifestation and personification of one of my character's personalities.
And Kari was quite tough, and he was even able to overpower my demonomaniacs. But
That's
as
such
it
a cool
turns
design,
out, he
though.
is
Holy shit.
remarkably susceptible to level 1 magic such as Spirit Leech. We finished up the battle
And typical of Nakari, he's a little bitch.
with hardly any damage taken, sacked the settlement for 19,000 gold, and claimed the Sword of Kain. This gives Kroll 25 melee attack, 450 armor piercing, 20% ward save, and a vortex ability that just
So still not enough damage to make me feel it. Okay.
ruins everyone's day. With this weapon, I felt like a new man, like nothing could stop me. So the first thing I did was sail across the ocean and kick the shit out of Ikit Claw before burning his capital city to the ground and Fortnite dancing on the ashes. Oh yes, this feels very good. While this was going on, I had some luck in my war against the Dark Elves. Finding them out of position, I was able to take
victory against the Dark Elves is self-fulfilling because they are their own worst enemy. Let's be real.
The final piece to this whole puzzle, because we're at 18 temples, and after capturing their settlements and doing some construction, it pushed us to 20. Level 50 Kroll with the Sword of Kain is now a god of the depths. With 135 armor, the largest mass of any lord in the game, between...
Oh yeah. I like it when they've got enough mass for my ass. So we're going to be a worthy sacrifice to my might when they finally get to a level worthy of being sacrificed to begin with.
1,400 and
Power scaling ain't nothing
strength,
around me.
Plenty of regeneration, overpowered spells, and 15,000 health. Considering he also...
Giant Eldritch God? I don't know. I think this character would be more well titled as an anime. That time I was reincarnated as a snack for Inky.
Has 90% damage reduction. That means you'd need to deal about 150,000 damage just to kill him. On paper, we are a god, but it's time to prove it. I brought Kroll back to Lustria and emptied out his army. Everyone else is going north to push back the Wood Elves, but Kroll is going to stuff himself into this drilling machine and travel all the way across the map to finish off the
I've been eating too much of those damn elves. My ass doesn't fit inside the drill anymore.
Chaos Dwarves by himself. I came through the portal, and before me were several dwarven armies, a few settlements, and
I am Tentacle Boy all caked up.
This is basically their equivalent of Mecca, and if we can destroy it, well, they probably wouldn't like that very much. I started the campaign by castrating Gorazin the Breaker and 700 of his men. Apparently, this was a heroic deed. That was easy. On to the next battle. This was where it got interesting, because it's just Kroll versus 5,000 Chaos Dwarves. I drove him straight.
This seems like a setup for a joke. What would you rather? Would you rather fight one Kroll-sized dwarf or 500,000 dwarf-sized Krolls?
Straight into the crowd and popped all of his spells while screaming at the top of my lungs. They had about 10 units of archers firing flaming arrows into the side of Kroll for 15 minutes straight, but they couldn't get past his regeneration. The Sword of Kain, Kraken's Pull, and Purple Sun tore through the blobs of conscript soldiers.
Dude,
and eventually,
talk about
I had generated
busted.
enough power to use
literally turning your character into a raid boss. Holy!
This ability. It summons a gang
My guy's got so much cake
that began cleaning
that
up
they
the
can't
enemy
even get
back
past
line.
the calories, let alone to the juicy
Dwarves
center.
Shuffled onto the battlefield, only to be added to the collage of dead bodies that surround Kroll. In moments like these, you might feel bad for the short kings, but in this judgment...
No. Listen here. When you're an Eldritch God, you don't feel sorry for no one. You only feel sorry for those who did not have the delight of being turned into a glorious snack for your visage. Those of whom who have yet to become part of your mighty bulk will only inevitably become part of it when they realize the inferiority of their ways. Or at least that's the excuse when I try to give people when I'm trying to validate that I don't have a Vorking, can only have a superiority complex instead.
And materialistic world, it's not enough to be tall. You have to actively be anti-short. So I did what I had to do and murdered 5,000 dwarves with my bare hands. After cleaning up a few more battles and crashing the game, I had made my way to Zarnagrund. These rat bastards have been popping up in my territory like post-apocalyptic Mormons for the past 35 turns, and I'm finally going to put an end to it. They didn't make it easy for me though. Kroll charged towards the front gate and absorbed about 15,000 bullets to the face. After breaking through, it wasn't much better. We had to battle our way past centaur demons, flame warriors, and lots of incels.
So they're invading the equivalent of Reddit then. Interesting.
While being blasted with heavy ordnance. Although, at some points, the artillery was actually working in our favor. You fire cluster bombs at me. I take 10% damage. Everyone else...
Firing cluster bombs at a single unit while surrounded by your own army is such a wild thing. Like, tell me you're actually just turncoating without telling me you're turncoating. Now listen here, Jeffrey. Our army are fighting the giant demon. Now, cluster bombs aren't useful in a situation like this, so whatever you do, don't fire the cluster bombs when I go down there to help fight the demon, Kay? And then Jeffrey's over there like, Sorry, what was that? I'm too busy playing Fortnite. Time to fire cluster bombs. Zippy!
They're dead. Not for nothing, this was the first battle
Damn
where
it,
they
Jimmy!
actually made me hit the regen cap, so hypothetically they could have killed me if they had more units. But they didn't. And once I was done smashing them into a dwarf puree, I forced their commanders to land, at which point Kroll smacked them for 50% of their health with each gyration of his grotesque body. After 12 minutes, it was all over, and we had emerged victorious. Friedrich Nietzsche famously proclaimed, "God is dead," but he had syphilis in his brain, so what the fuck does he know?
Yeah. Freaking imagine having syphilis in your brain. When you could have had me. A dollop of inky in your brain is how you get away from the scrotum in the drain or something. I don't know. There's a metaphor in there somewhere.
Oh, God is alive and well, and he's covered in the blood of short men. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the
that's
next
it.
video.
Nice.
Finally, thank you to...
That was a really good one. Damn. Something about tentacles. I mean, honestly, what I've learned from this video is tentacles good. Embrace tentacles, and tentacles, 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 and come here and give me a hug. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.